Welcome to Time with Tammy. This episode is called Parents' Worst Nightmare. So, my son just turned 1, and I was pregnant with my daughter. Was having some issues at work, so I was going to my doctor's appointments, and my employer, a certain boss, didn't like me because I found some errors that he was making in an accounting situation. Anyway, he said, if you miss another day, I'm going to fire you. I said, you can't do that. I'm pregnant. I'm just going to my doctor's appointments. And he just said, it is what it is. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm still going to go to my doctor's appointments, but I'm going to try to miss no other time off work. Well, my mom calls me. She was watching my son, and she said, Tammy, AJ's not feeling so well. He's coughing, he's hoarse, he doesn't look good. And she said, I'm pretty sick myself, so I need you to come home and take him to the doctors. And I'm just like, Mom, I can't. My boss said if I miss any more time, he's going to fire me. I'll lose my job. I go, can you please just take him to the doctor? And so she said, oh, okay, yeah, I will. And so she took him to the doctor, and then the next thing I know, I'm getting a call that they're rushing him to Tuolity Hospital by ambulance. It was that urgent. And so I told everybody I was leaving. I left my job and went to the hospital, and I get there, and they have diagnosed him with epiglottitis. And apparently, the only reason they probably caught it was, I guess, an older lady had it, and they really didn't know what was going on, and she had gone home. They sent her home, and what happens is your epiglottis starts swelling, and it's the little leaf-like flap that shuts off, so when you swallow, your food goes into your stomach rather than your lungs. Well, that epiglottis was swelling up and cutting off his breathing. So anyway, they sent the woman home, and she died in her sleep. She suffocated. So they knew what it was. Get there, and they have a tube down his nose into his lungs so he can breathe. So, because the hole was getting smaller and smaller, and they needed to get an airway for him before it shut off completely. So anyway, we're at the hospital. We're trusting in the doctors to do the right thing, and with all their skills and experience and all their knowledge, that they're going to save my son. And anyway, I go into his room. My mom and I were there 24/7. And I looking at him, and he had not opened his eyes. He had not anything. He was just out of it. And so I'm looking at him, and I'm like, he looks like he's turning blue. And so I ran to the nurse, and I said, my son, I think he's turning blue. He's not breathing. And so they ran in there, and they were just like, code blue, everybody out of the room. And everybody starts rushing into the room, and they push us out, and then we're out in the waiting room thinking, oh my gosh, what is happening? And anyway, I'm sorry. I've told this story, and I've relived it so many times. I never thought it would affect me like this again, but it was just so real. And anyway, I'm sitting in the waiting room with my dad, and my dad's always been a believer. I was raised in a Christian home. Of course, we're not perfect. You know, we have done a lot of things, made mistakes. I think that's why I ran from God, is because I saw my parents not live the life that I thought they were preaching. And so I thought they were hypocrites, basically. And so I didn't want anything to do with their God. So anyway, my dad is just like, we have to pray. It's in God's hands now. There's nothing we can do. And so his prayer was that the Lord would give the nurses wisdom to make the right decisions. And it was just focused on the nurses. And I didn't really understand it at the time. And so anyway, we just finished the prayer and I said, well, amen, you know. And I did have a peace after praying, but then a nurse came to get us and she said, we got things under control. We had to take that tube out and put a smaller one in. And so everything's good. Let me take you back to his room. And on the way there, she said to me, I could lose my job for telling you this, but if I was you, I would transfer my son to Emmanuel and get him out of here. And I was like, okay, well, thank you for telling me that. And then I get to the room and there's a different nurse there. And so I thought, okay, Lord, if you're trying to speak to me through these nurses, then I want to listen. So I decided to ask this other nurse who was in there. I said, I need to ask you a question. You don't have to answer it because I don't want you to feel uncomfortable or risk losing your job. But if this was your son, would you transfer him to Emmanuel? She said, yes, just like that. No hesitation. And I said, okay. And so I called Emmanuel. It was like 3 or 4 in the morning and said, I need an ambulance brought to this hospital. I need you to come and get my son. And then the pediatrician that was taking care of my son was angry at me. He was so upset with me. And I didn't understand why. Like, if they didn't have the facilities and the knowledge and skill to take care of my son properly, why would anybody be mad about that? But again, pride. We all have pride. And so anyway, Emmanuel shows up. They get him. They take him into the elevator. I don't see him after that. We get in a car. We're following behind the ambulance. We get to Emmanuel. And there he is, setting up in this tent with that tube out of his nose. And I was just like, oh my gosh. It was like night and day. And anyway, I spent another day or two there. And then he came home and he was fine. But I came so close to losing him. And trusting, I love doctors. I appreciate doctors so much. But God is the ultimate healer, the ultimate physician. I don't even know what would have happened if my dad didn't say that prayer and the nurses didn't come forward and share with me what they would do if that was their child. Anyway, it was Thanksgiving, and so everybody brought food into the hospital. We were eating there and everything, and he got to go home, and it was an amazing day when he got to go home, and it was a heart-wrenching experience, but I got to see God show up. When you pray and you give it to God, he shows up. And I would like to say that was the beginning of my amazing journey with the Lord. But yeah, when I told you earlier I was stubborn and hard-headed, I was, very much so. It definitely woke me up a bit and got me thinking, but it was not the end of my rebellious running from God. I'm not even sure what I was thinking, or I just had a lot of wounds. I had a lot of guilt and shame and condemnation, and I didn't feel worthy to have this amazing God be there for me and to love me and take care of me. I just didn't feel like I deserved it. I'd made so many mistakes and committed so much sin. And anyway, yeah, but that was a story in my life I will never forget. And I just pray that maybe this helps somebody today. And I can't even imagine actual loss of a child. I came close, but anyway, I feel for all the mothers and fathers that have lost a child, and I just pray for them, that God would comfort them. And anyway, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more videos.